If you want an example of how far Kunos have lost the plot, the F2004 in the beta branch of Assetto Corsa EVO, which is in early access can't complain, is probably the best example. To highlight what's going on here, in this video we're going to look at the car in Assetto Corsa EVO and then look at the car in the original normal Assetto Corsa to see what's different. Sadly, in order to be able to unsubscribe, you have to subscribe first, so subscribe to then unsubscribe. Of course, you can click the like button, don't know why you would, and if you like what we do and you really hate yourself and your finances, consider becoming a member on YouTube, Patreon or Twitch. Condolences to everybody that already is a member. Thank you, it's really appreciated. Again, let's restate this. EVO is early access. Assetto Corsa EVO, it is in early access. Early access means you cannot complain at all. Early access can't complain, and this is obviously a beta branch of the early access. So we've regressed 2 levels down through early access. I don't know if we could get any more early access, but Kunos seem to be pushing the boundaries here, so who knows. Now I'm going to be as fair and balanced as possible, like a circus elephant on a ball. Let's talk about the commonalities between the two simulators first. So the general speed, the sort of general underlying profile of the vehicles, the 3D model and the audio are actually quite similar. And with EVO, compared to previous Formula 1 titles by Codemasters and maybe Gran Turismo and many other games, you could see how someone could play EVO and be like, oh, this is spectacular, because, you know, the F2004, as soon as you start hearing it, as soon as you start zooming through tracks, it is spectacular. This be spectacular on the Game Boy Advance, you know? It's an F2004. Look at that superb AI that Kunos have improved since the original Assetto Corsa over 10 years ago. Now the differences in this car between EVO and AC really do expose the fundamental issues that's currently going on with EVO. And you'll actually find in many simulators, the lighter a car is, the more it exposes fundamental aspects of the tyre model. In some ways, downforce actually hides aspects of tyre models and physics because it just stabilises a vehicle. There's been many cases, you'll notice in iRacing, high-speed tracks, Road Atlanta, VIR, Road America, with an F4 car, for example, they drive a lot more naturally and the tyre grip comes back and things are just more progressive and make more sense than if you're driving windy circuits with tighter corners. So downforce really stabilises stuff and helps to actually hide more nuanced physics, but a lighter vehicle in general will really expose what's going on with a simulator and really expose if there's delay in input or how the car responds to what you're doing and the details of the force feedback. In contrast to, say, a GT3 car or a road car that's either heavier, has traction control ABS, or is running road tyres and has maybe very sloppy suspension on it. In some ways, actually, a car like a go-kart in a simulator really emphasises what's going on with tyres. Obviously, a go-kart's a different type of vehicle, has different handling behaviours, but if you play a go-kart in the various simulators, you'll notice that it really magnifies the underlying character of what's going on in a simulator incredibly clearly. You drive a go-kart in AMS2, AMS1 or go-kart mods in the original Assetto Corsa, and you'll see it will highlight and magnify the meta of how you need to drive a sim or how a sim wants to be driven and what sort of flaws and aspects you find in a sim. And well, an F2004 is 605 kilograms with the driver, in contrast to a GT3 car, which is normally 1,200 kilograms. And then, again, like so a Radical SR3 is around about 600 kilograms. So just think how mind-boggling an F2004 car is. It's an absolute beast. God forbid Formula 1 goes back to this era of car. I mean, just watch onboards of this car, guys. Just watch a classic Formula 1 race with these vehicles and tell me if you can then not become massively depressed over the state of modern motorsport. But let's not go there. We're here to talk about Evo, which is mirroring Formula 1 quite closely in the state of despair and depression that it's producing, I would say. So the handling differences are what really stand out between this in Evo and in the original Assetto Corsa. In Evo, you're having to do the Evo thing of turn-based driving. You're noticing that at many points in time, the force feedback is dislocated from the vehicle so that you feel like you have traction and load through the steering wheel, and then it kind of goes a bit dead and then it comes back again. And you'll also notice in Evo that it's doing the classic, we all love it, the ACC baked passenger type of slide, where you basically turn-based, wait for the passenger slide to finish, and then you're back in control normally again. But there's this sort of dull dead zone where you're not really doing anything as a driver. Contrast that with the original Assetto Corsa, where, well, hang on, look at the graphics. This looks really nice. This runs really well. This runs really well in VR. Look at the cockpit. Okay, the shading maybe not as advanced, the reflections maybe not as advanced, and the sound a bit more raw, but the crucial thing, it is absolutely hooked up in Assetto Corsa. I would even argue, actually, if you watch the real-world onboards, the real-world F2004 is even more hooked up than what happens in Assetto Corsa. It's more nimble, it's more twitchy, and AC is a bit overly stable and a bit overly sloppy in tyre behaviour. But AC compared to Evo, it's immediately hooked up. Also, rather strange that AI here are a lot faster in Assetto Corsa than Evo. We were running Evo on 100% AI and they were so slow it's ridiculous. AC, I think we're on like 80 or 90% AI and they're a lot faster. But I think crucially, the thing that massively stands out with the original Assetto compared to Evo is that the force feedback in particular is always in line with the vehicle and always has a range of load depending on how much you are pushing the car through the corners, but also how much you're actually loading up the tyres and how much grip you actually have in the tyres is so clear in Assetto Corsa 1 that you really can sort of preempt what the vehicle's going to do through what you feel through the force feedback in an incredibly similar and analogous way to any real car that I've driven and the experience of just doing real-world physical activities. In real life, you're feeling G-forces through your body, you feel rotation from your lower spine, and you also feel load in your inner ear. There's always a constant dynamic range of forces that ground you and allow you to actually do a sporting activity precisely. And that is the crux of, I think, what makes Assetto Corsa so loved by most people and so analogous to the real world activity of driving. You can point out that there's many aspects to AC's physics where you go, well, that's not that very realistic, or that's a bit weird, or that's overly catchable. You know, there's loads of stuff, like every simulator has massive issues in it that if you play lots of sims or you drive any real car, you should notice a lot of these things. But the point is, the process in the original AC is the same process, though maybe a little bit abstracted through what you're feeling through the steering wheel, but that is actually required, I believe. Also, crucially, Evo definitely has some kind of, as I say, it's like turn-based driving, but I think that's actually caused by there being some underlying physics delay, some sort of delay between what you do as a driver, how the car responds, and then how you respond to how the car responds. The same problem also exists in Assetto Corsa Competizione. And to be honest, I think what happens is a lot of people play ACC for so long that they just get used to it, and then they're like, oh, well, that's just how it drives. Or people in their brains are like, oh, it's the tyre flex. Oh, it's just the cushioning of the damping of the rods or something. It's like, no, guys, if you play lots of different simulators, there is something fundamentally off here with ACC and Evo. I think they got away with it with ACC because people weren't coming from AC1 to ACC. I think AC1 players just ignored ACC, to be honest. And, you know, a lot of new people came to sim racing with ACC due to COVID, and then also due to low fuel motorsports, making it the sort of cheaper iRacing, if you will. Not that ACC's universally terrible. It's very consistent. GT3 cars are popular. It's a package. I'm not entirely knocking ACC. I understand why people play it, but if we're just focusing purely on the handling, this is the thing. This is this turn-based driving technique, and you will find with this F4 car, in Evo, you're like tripping over yourself to do some of the most fundamental driving. It's genuinely, as we said in the previous video, it's worse than iRacing in many ways because of this weird delay and this weird interaction and this weird erratic behaviour of the tyres. Obviously, with Evo, early access, they're trying new stuff. They are experimenting with more dynamic tyres, tyre heating effects through the corner, and a whole bunch of things happening that weren't done in other simulators. So, experimentation is going to cause problems, and I'm sure they will start to dial things in and improve it. But the thing is, they hadn't really completely nailed things in the original Assetto Corsa, but the original Assetto Corsa was still a million times better than iRacing, better than Race Room, better than Automobilista 1. I'm a huge Automobilista 1 fanboy. Better than Automobilista 2, better than Project Cars 2, better than F1 games. And AC1 is used by loads of real driver training centres, and I know a load of really very talented drivers, some of them you would know, but they're very talented drivers that currently swear by AC1 for raw handling and for the sort of believability of how you approach it. It just didn't have the competition, so iRace is the sim for the competition. But given that that's the case, this is exactly what I said in that other video I did a while back about complexity and the hunt for realism really damaging simulators. I'll link it in the description. But it's like, what on earth is going on? This F2004 absolutely exposes the underlying issues with Evo, and I think you find these characters in all the vehicles in Evo, but it's more muted with road cars and road tyres, and the more sloppy a vehicle is, the less noticeable it is. Just like, as in iRacing, the GT3 cars mute and hide a lot of the tyre aspects. The Toyota GR86, its TC hides the tyre model aspects because it's a lot harder to light the wheels up with really aggressive TC. So, certain cars will hide the innate physics of a simulator. The F2004 doesn't hide, does not, there's no way to hide, there's no curtain to hide behind. The F2004 is like a toddler standing behind a lamppost with their hands over their eyes. That's how well hidden the physics issues are when you drive an F2004 car in a simulator. So yeah, ultimately, the difference is AC1 feels like you're driving a car, your heart rate will go up, you'll be focused, you'll be absolutely dialing things in by the millimetre, whereas in Evo, you'll feel like you're driving a tank, like a GT3 F2004, which is possibly the worst thing that Kunos could have ever done. So, there you go. Play AC1 and cry yourself to sleep if you were hoping for good physics in Evo at this point in time.